Welcome to Talent Pop Podcast, where we will provide tips and strategies for success in sales, networking, marketing, and business. We will be learning from real stories that will inspire you to unlock your potential, discover your talents, and develop the confidence to take action on your biggest dreams. We are focused on empowering women to connect their passions with their purpose to find true fulfillment. It's time to pop off, queens. Pop off, queens! Hi, I'm your host of Talent Pop, Amanda O'Connell, and I have a special guest here today. His name is Chris Ciulla. He's the president of North American Operations and Cross-Border Services for Comrise. It's a global staffing and consulting firm. And I really appreciate you being on here, Chris. You've been such an awesome, just kind of mentor to our company, really helped us with our implementing our internal WeCulture program, and just grateful for you. So thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, today I think we're going to talk about some important topics just to help folks, expand their business, talking about global expansion, what you've been doing at Comrise, as well as, maintaining an amazing culture, and even, how leadership is progressing either in your organization or even what you've seen, and helping whether it's, females in getting to, C-level positions, or even just, leadership in general, what you've experienced there. So, I'd love to kind of dive into some of those topics today. But I think we could definitely start out with just some ways where you've seen at Comrise just different tactics to kind of help them help grow your business. So maybe utilizing, a lot of folks don't know about RPO, which is, recruitment process outsourcing. So I'd love to kind of just hear your thoughts on how that maybe has helped you guys, your experience with that in general.
So talking about growth of the business, it's really about getting your message out to the market. So a lot selling is selling, and you have to make first contact with a company, but the means and how you do that have really changed over the years. Back in my day, we would cold call companies and people would pick up their phones, right? And cell phones weren't a big thing. So you calling people at their offices. So it's appropriate, right? Now it's really hard to get people on the phone. So the way we grow our business and the tactics we use to expand our business are usually geared more towards first contact through marketing outreach. Okay. So we have a really robust marketing program. We have a really robust first contact program through tools where people can make appointments with us at their convenience to talk about our services. And, recruiting process outsourcing is one of many services we have, but it's our fastest growing service.
Amazing. And I guess how did you are you kind of in charge of that process, or who kind of spearheads that?
We have a team in marketing, but I really love the whole branding aspect. Marketing reports in directly to me, and I double down as a sales leader for organization. And sales and marketing go hand in hand. Definitely. Right? So the marketing team, they're great at producing incredible content. And I think that the audience, especially when you use a medium like LinkedIn or other social media platforms, they want to see video content. They want to see who you are. They want to know what you're about. They want to know that they can connect with you before they talk to you. So not only do we create great video content, but our own colleagues are the stars in our show. So when people see our videos and think that, hey, I might be interested in the service offering, usually the person that rolls up to provide that service is someone they might have met through that video content.
Yep, we've definitely seen that in our business. I think that's, definitely great advice on the marketing side too. And then also I guess from a global perspective, I mean, we're not, global yet anyway, right. But I guess, when folks are thinking about global expansion and just taking that on, even from a marketing perspective, or I think there's some fears that, folks may have in getting into new markets, and how would you recommend that folks could navigate through some of these roadblocks?
Well, the first thing is you want to go with someone who's been there and have the help of an expert. Think about this statistic, Amanda. It's mind-blowing, right? Think of the political climate and then listen to the statistic. 79% of companies in China that have the capability to go global want to do business in the United States. over 80% of the companies in the US that have the capability to go global want to do business in China, right?
Mm,
So here's the rub. The business cultures are so different from country to country, and the regulations are so different from country to country, and the work climate and the interview climate, all the cultural things you have to consider. It's like landing on another planet, right?
mhm.
It really creates a lot of stress in the organization. And when people go it alone, usually expats will go from one country to the other alone, and they'll
Yep.
fail because they're trying to apply the logic and the expertise that made them successful in their home market, but it doesn't make you
Mhm.
successful in your new market. So what we do is we help bridge those gaps, the cultural gaps, the business culture gaps. We help with compliance to local, state, and federal law in the US, or local compliance for the market in China. We
Mhm.
help settle with business licensing, all the things you have to do to get set up. And then we
Mhm.
can teach people how to market their brand
Mm.
in the new market. How do you position your company to compete for what you really need to grow, which is great talent, right? And then on top of that, we don't just show you how. We have robust domestic recruiting organizations in each of the markets we serve in China, the US, and Southeast Asia. We're US owned and operated company, minority held company,
Okay.
but we operate locally in those environments so we can help you find the people you need to fuel the growth of your business. And
Mm.
that's the real secret sauce behind helping people get to those markets. The real challenge they have is not want to, it's how.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And you're mentioning like I always think about, WeCulture and how you're such a proponent and cheerleader for WeCulture. And I was just curious, like, what your experience has been implementing this, a global organization. You mentioned, China. Like, I'd love to kind of hear how you carry on, WeCulture into your organization and what that's been like, what that experience has been like.
That's a great question. So I've been to China several times, and it kind of reminds me, my first trip out there, I had to do a presentation to heads of talent in Beijing and then again in Shanghai. I'd never been in China before. I had a live translator. And I asked this question of somebody in the office, and when you look at me, what do you see? And usually the second or third answer that comes from somebody is, we see an American, a guy from the US.
Yeah.
And I say back to the audience in China, it's like, when I look at you, I don't see Chinese, I see people. You just happen to be from China.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of what we culture is to not focus on what makes us different. We should focus on the things we have in common. So
Mm.
I focus on the fact that the people in the audience are people first, people that want to thrive and grow their businesses, have successful careers. They want to be part of a great team. If they're expanding a global brand, they want to do that ethically. They want to be a part of the communities that they expand into,
Yep.
right? And we have those things in common. And then if we focus on some of the things that are different, like language, customs, food, maybe, even things like their holidays, Chinese New Year and things like that.
Yeah.
They just become fun things to learn about each other that don't, they're not roadblocks to the relationship. They become the things that enhance our relationship. So the
Definitely.
big part of we culture that I learned bringing it to another culture is that we're all people first.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. And I think I follow you guys on LinkedIn too. You do a lot of events and just like whether it's like, I don't know if it was a potluck or something like that, but just really, I definitely see the effort behind, and I think people appreciate that from other cultures. They appreciate you, even though you don't know everything, right? It's just having that open, learning mentality and being able to be sensitive and empathetic towards, who they are and understanding their situation. So I love to see that. And I guess I'd love to kind of talk about like even your team. And you mentioned a minority owned business. I didn't know that. Um, how have you seen, I guess, like even females in your organization? Because I mean, we're all about Talent Pop's all about kind of female empowerment and helping women kind of get to their next level and inspiring them, right? To inspiring and helping them to get to their next level. Um, have you seen that kind of within your organization? Do you have any challenges, roadblocks, anything that you've seen or experienced?
So aside from my current role, at Comrise, I'm also an advocate for Rutgers Women in Business, which is a well-recognized organization that helps women achieve their career goals. So if you're looking to get into management, we do professional mentoring and coaching to help people do that. If you're in management and you want to get into C-suite, we help you do that too, right? It's targeted towards women,
Yep.
right? To help women grow professionally, and kind of the thought process to level a playing field that I see in my mind that you're already level with us on in talent, right?
Mhm.
The women in our organization, in management, in leadership, outnumber the men. And
Wow.
part of that is two things. One, that we spend a lot of time working with people and we see people first. We don't see gender first. We don't see anything but the person's talent and capabilities and that they're a person, right? And once we take away those labels, right? So think about it. When you say you're a woman in business, right?
Mhm.
It gives people immediately unconsciously that there's some preconceived notions that might come with that label. And you don't know
Mm.
based on the audience what's going on unconsciously,
That's
right?
true.
So
Yeah.
what we do is we take away those monikers, right? And then
Mhm.
we apply business to us as people.
I love that concept of just, yeah, stripping away those labels and looking at people for people, because ultimately at the end of the day, like you said, talent is talent. And sometimes maybe it's even, you know, like you said, folks have these preconceived notions and ideas, and it's more of that work that needs to be done versus like what the reality is in business. There are, openings and spaces and opportunities. It's just a matter of, are you willing to, like, as a woman, right? Are you willing to overcome those preconceived notions that you may even have about yourself or what you've seen, you know, growing up, or whatever ideas that you've developed over the years. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept, but
Yes,
I love that approach.
I just when I look at someone else in business, I see someone that could be equal or exceed my level of talent, no matter who they are,
Mm.
right? And you have to think of it this way: we're all unconsciously biased. We're mammals. We're hardwired to be unconsciously biased to things that are different than us.
Yeah.
So what we really have to work on is using our conscious mind to be consciously unbiased and see people and see what value that they add and see the value we can add for them. And then take the thing that makes them different and let it enhance the business relationship. Let diversity enhance the relationship and enhance the value of what people can add when they work together, not
Yeah.
be something that's seen as a roadblock.
Absolutely. I know. I think about when you mentioned traveling, like I think about the times where, even I traveled when I was younger, and just how it opens your eyes, right? And you never forget those experiences. And I think you're so right about that. It just adds so much color and fulfillment to your own life, right? It's like there's a whole other world out there. There's, I've never been to Asia, right? But there's all these, people and culture, and so much opportunity out there. It's amazing. Um, and then also, you mentioned talent. How do you determine, I guess, early on if a candidate is a good fit in your organization's culture? Because I know that's something we look for too, right? Every organization out there, it's talent pop. We got to talk about, you know, how do you, what do you look for?
We're really looking for people who share our core values.
Hmm.
And after we're looking and asking questions related to how we measure their core values match, then we're looking for the second thing, which is core competencies or core qualities that will make them successful in our specific environment, right? And that
Hmm.
could be different for each organization, and the core values can be different for each organization. But once you've established your company's organization's core values and the core competencies that make someone successful in that role, what you have to do is just really design your questioning to screen for those things in an effective way. And we put those before experience, and we put them before skills, and we put them before accomplishments, right? Because let's face it, Amanda, if we have a really intelligent person with good communication skills, they have a good thought process, they can think on their feet and work through
Hmm.
problems, and they're driven to succeed, we can teach them a lot of different things. They can learn
Yep.
a lot of different things in a lot of different environments. If they don't have those core competencies,
Yeah.
then how could they be successful? So it's almost like the prerequisite is not the skill set. The prerequisite is the core competencies and the core values match. If somebody
Definitely.
doesn't share our values, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're honest and ethical. If somebody doesn't share that value with us, this will be a short stay for
Yeah, it's
them.
tough.
So we have to screen for that first. So
Yes.
that's core value number 3 for us, not be honest and ethical. So we
Yes.
have to be able to screen for that. And you know, I have a book published called WeCulture, and I know that boomers are real familiar with it because they read it book club.
Oh, yes.
Chapter 6 of the book goes over how to do this and actually quantify next to core values and core competencies.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's definitely a challenge. We know that that is the hardest the hardest thing to do is hire the right talent and figure that out kind of on the front end. Because it's tough. I mean, people say a lot of things, right? But it's like their actions speak louder than words. It's sometimes it's tough because you think you're hiring based on these responses, right? But then how do you really, so that's definitely something to think about. And like you mentioned, tailoring that in your questions, making sure that you're really thoroughly diving into that and making sure that they line up with your core values.
I
So
guess think
yeah.
about it this way, right? I would share this advice with anyone who's in a hiring capacity. Ask people who they are when they were growing up in their formative years.
Mm,
Learn a little bit about them. I won't spoil it for you. You can read it in chapter 6 of WeCulture, how we go through that
yeah.
process. But if you ask people who are in their formative years, you kind of referred to it early on in the interview. The experience you had early on in
Yeah.
life really formed your opinions of how you look at the world,
Yep.
right? So that should give people a little tip and a little hint on how we do that.
I love that. No, that's such good advice because yeah, it definitely shapes who you are. And I think there's a lot of like I asked people about, examples of, challenges they've overcome, for example, because we're constantly throwing problems in business. How would you approach this problem? And but yeah, it's so challenging, the hiring process. So definitely read WeCulture if you are you know, looking to improve your hiring process. Definitely helped us. But yeah, I think also in general, like speaking about culture, I think we love, doing like a WeCulture book club, right? Because culture is such a living, growing, transforming, changing all the time, changing with people that come in your organization, out of your organization. And it's living and breathing. And so that's why we love to continue the process, which is kind of, I know that you do that too, Chris, is work with companies on kind of an ongoing basis with that. And why, WeCulture, it's not just one of those things where you read it and you're like, all right, great. Like I know it all, right? It's like we keep reading it because things change and you change. I've changed as a leader and and people change, organizations change. So it's definitely important to revisit those concepts as things grow and progress. But do you have any other advice for, I guess, folks, whether they're growing their business or looking to, join a new company? I know there's a lot of layoffs going on right now, things like that. Any other advice that you have you want to share?
Let's talk about the current state of the market, right? Because,
Yeah.
my tips to anyone in any market, everywhere you go, there you are, right? So make sure you find companies that align with who you are, your core and your core values, and their core values are core values that are truly part of who you are. That's a first step to being successful. You can't
Mhm.
fake it in an organization where you don't share their core values. But talking about the current market, there's going to be a lot of change in the market.
Mm,
And, there are layoffs that are happening right now, and it's going to change the dynamic. The really scary thing is the last time we went through a recession, most of the people that will be impacted are probably in high school or college,
mhm.
right? Back at the time, or,
Yep.
the people at the twilight of their career that have been through this a few times. The
Yep.
best advice I can give anyone is if you do happen to be find yourself in the unfortunate circumstance that you're laid off, before you start looking, you should sit down and do a post-mortem. Hey, how did I get here? How did this happen? Ask yourself, was I really happy in my last job, or was in that job
Mhm.
because I needed a job? And then figure out what you want to do next and where you
Mhm.
want to be next. and then formulate a plan with how to get there. It might take you a week or so to figure that out after the initial shock wears off, but you can always go to people who can help you, right? There are career coaches out in the market that you can go to. You can go to people like you, Amanda, and your team at Boomer, the Boomer team. You can talk to professionals like
Yeah.
myself that can help you through that part of the journey. And
Yeah.
once you know where you want to go, then I truly think you should talk to a professional recruiter, especially if you are someone with a specialty skill set,
Mhm.
right? Recruiters
Definitely.
are the people get you to the front of the line. We have relationships that you may not, that we can leverage,
Yep.
right? Which help you get ahead. And that's really what you need. If you were doing anything, if we were going to a restaurant together, right? And I told you there's,
Yes.
I knew the maitre d', you'd probably think there's probably a good chance we're going to be seated tonight,
100%.
right?
Yep.
If we were walking into a hot, trendy restaurant, and we'd never been there before, and I didn't know anybody, we're probably going to wait for a table.
Yep.
So, just think about it that way. We're your concierge service to the market.
Yes.
We know the people you want to know, and that's how we help you win.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love to be, like you mentioned, transparency, honesty. I am completely as transparent as I am internally. I'm transparent externally too. Like I will give my honest advice. Like if somebody's, questioning what their next step is, it's like, hey, here's what I would do. Take it or leave it. Here's what's going on in the market. Here's what I've seen. These are the markets that are hot right now. But ultimately too, it comes down to, listening to your instincts and your gut feeling. And yeah, and definitely my instincts have gotten better. The more I stay in recruiting, the better my instincts get. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
And I think I have some advice for recruiters out there, right? Because recruiters are saying like, hey, tell people to call us and we'll help them. Some advice I give to recruiters, right?
Hmm.
People when they get laid off are usually at the most vulnerable moment, right?
Hmm.
Nobody woke up in the morning and said, I very rarely, very rare cases, unless they're getting a huge package, said, I hope I get laid off today when I go to work, right?
Yep.
So they have to be totally miserable in their job and expecting like a 2-year package payout for that to happen. So
Yeah.
people are usually in a tough moment.
Yeah.
Please show them compassion, right? Call people back. If you can't help them, be honest that you can't help them and why, and then direct them to where they can go to get help. When
Mm.
people want help, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of pay it forward without self-interest goes a long way.
Hmm.
So, I remember the last recession, last downturn in 2008. I was getting a lot of calls from a lot of people who needed jobs. I was in Florida. The published unemployment was 13% at one point. So
Yeah.
when it's that high, it's usually closer to like 18 or 19%. So that's almost like 1 in 5 people don't have a job,
Yeah.
right? Or are not fully employed. So
Yep.
we were helping people, and you take those calls. And the end of the day, sometimes it was hard because, I was working a desk at the time, and you can have 20, 30 messages. And sometimes I call people back and I would tell them, it's like, hey, I'm not the right person to help you, but
Hmm.
here's where you can go.
Yep.
Right? And I'm not telling you I can't help you because I don't want to help you. I
Hmm.
just don't want you to feel like and give you false hope that I'm going to be the person who's going to be able to get it done for you. And
Yeah.
that also gives me as a recruiter time to really engage and help the people I can help and focus on the people I can help win.
Definitely.
So that level of honesty,
Yes.
for recruiters, if I know a lot of recruiters listen to your podcast and, I want to give
Yes.
them some good advice because a lot of them probably
Right.
have not experienced this type of market.
Yes, and I definitely have, younger recruiters internally or externally saying, "Hey, like they've never experienced this, right? Is this going to get better? What's going on?" And it's like, yeah, I think back to that time, and I was new to the job market myself back then, and it was it was very challenging, but it also gives a lot of hope too. I mean, we've been through these times. We've been through the pandemic. We've been through a lot of different things, and I think it's just keeping that positive attitude. I know that's one thing, be positive, right? And
Mhm.
keeping that positive attitude, utilizing your connections, reaching out, networking. um, yeah, this is such awesome advice, so thank you so much.
Adversity is the key to success,
Yeah.
right? When you're winning, it's easy. People clap for you. Everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody's standing next to you telling you how great you are. A
Yeah.
little bit of adversity definitely teaches you who you are.
Yeah.
It teaches you where you're weak, where you need to focus. It shows you where your strengths are and where you can lean when you need to. I think this is a good thing. It's a natural cycle in the market, and we have to look at like any other natural cycle that we may have to put a little bit of extra work in. We may have to change our tact a little bit, but this too shall pass. It always has and always will. So I feel good heading into this market. And my job is to help my own people win that I'm
Yep.
charged to lead. And this is the message that I have for them. Be compassionate, put the work in, learn about yourself through this process. It'll be a little harder, but you'll learn, and it'll
Yeah.
help you grow in the future.
Exactly. And I think that makes me think of something important when you said it's almost like leaning into the storm, because I think a lot of people could be like, oh, well, I'm jumping ship and I don't want to be in an agency anymore. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to kind of hunker down and hide under my sheets. And it's like, this is the time where you lean in and you make those connections and you get out there and you have those meetings, because the market's going to open back up, and like you said, things are going to change. So I love that, that whole concept, right? It's like leaning in to the storm instead of hiding.
That's right. If you were captain on a ship and there was a storm coming and you had to sail into it, you wouldn't take down the sails and put the crew below decks and let the waves pound the boat. You'd grab the wheel, you'd put the sails, and you'd point that ship into the wind and into the waves, and you'd ride it out. And the best sailors are created through the toughest weather. The people who sail when it's sunny out are on the boat every day when it's flat and calm, are not the best sailors.
That's true. That's true. Very good. So, Chris, I have one more question, just because I know we have a lot of female listeners, on the podcast, and, as an advocate for women in business, what advice do you have for women in the market right now? How to progress, how to get ahead? What advice do you have for them?
It's just a great question. Just really thoughtfully, I think the best piece of advice I can give to women in business, and I do give to women in business as a male mentor, is remember that you are a woman in business, but then remember that you're a person, you're a professional first in the eyes of your peers, that you are a professional first. And what we really want on the team is a professional. And we love the fact that you're a woman and a professional as a male leader, because you bring diversity and diverse ideas to our team. So to me, when I have women in business on our team, I see them as a professional first, and I want them to see themselves as a professional first, while they're still bringing the unique diversity and the diversity of ideas to the team as a woman in business, right? So sometimes don't carry it around like it's something that's holding you back, because it's something of value that you bring to the team that can make us stronger.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I remember an experience I had in China with a women in business networking group called She Leads. Leader said, hey, the group is getting a little stale, and I said, what's the message? She said, we're telling people to be empowered and go out and get theirs. And I got quiet, and she said, what do you really think? I said, it's okay. And she says, no, Chris, I really want you to tell me what you think. And this is in another country. I said, if I was leading one of those people and they were coming back from the meeting thinking about how they're getting theirs, I'd be hiding.
That's not the right attitude. Because
I want to be focused on how we get ours.
Yes. And at the end of the day, we all have to work together. And like you said, it's about diversity. It's about professionalism first. And we all have to get along at the end of the day. So having that attitude is definitely not going to help anybody. But I think, speaking to that point that you said, I think women may have that fear that they don't necessarily have a seat at the table. So it's so refreshing to talk to leaders like yourself who value this. And I think that's what companies need to communicate is, yes, there is a seat for you as there is a seat for somebody else, and you belong. And
that's right. Your seat, you have a seat at the table, and your seat is an equal seat. It's professional first, right? I'm professional first, a male second, right? I represent 49.5% of the population, which means that the females in the room are representing 50.5% of the rest of the population. We need that diversity, but we want the professional first, the diversity to be the flavor that's added in from both sides that helps us serve a broader spectrum of the market,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
that's the way I always do. Just see yourself for who you really are, the professional
Absolutely.
value that you add to the team so we can accomplish our goals together. Those are the people that advance. The people who are great collaborators are always the people who advance in any environment. And I can
Yep.
give you hundreds of examples. The person who's always the odd one out is the one who usually doesn't advance.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, you brought up a good point too, because I was thinking I would want to be valued for my contributions, who I am as a professional, versus, oh, I value her because she's a woman. Do you know what I mean? It's like I want to be no, I want to leave my legacy. I want to make an impact. I would rather be known that I had a seat because I have a lot of value to bring to the table versus, oh, we had that seat because, we needed to hire a woman. So
And if you go with that thought process, that, hey, I'm here because I'm a professional first, and show that in actions and words and deed with the
yeah.
people you're working with every day, your uniqueness of the fact that you are one will add flavor and value and diversity of ideas to the group
Hmm.
without leading with it as a badge or something that's holding you back unconsciously in your own mind. And it'll
Hmm.
dispel any myth in the mind of other people in the room that you're anything other than a great professional that adds value, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's really for me my secret sauce in my organization. We have more female leaders than male leaders, and I see them as professionals first, and they see themselves as professionals first, and then they add their diversity of ideas to our brand, and it just makes us better.
That's awesome. I love that. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad we had a chance to address that. I think it's so important for everyone to hear. And yeah, it's all about empowering everybody, right? And everyone having that seat at the table and believing in yourself as a professional. So that's awesome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
asking me. I know it's a hard topic to talk
I
about, but I'm
know.
really glad we can talk about it.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate everything. And yeah, thank you.